6.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just the video stream. Just the video stream starting. Hi, video people.
Ouch.
Now everyone can see Kiki's hat.
Yay.
I'm here.
Well, not everyone. The people still listening on audio still can't see
They
it.
still can't.
So I will describe you. It is a knit hat with a Parthenon.
It does look like a Parthenon on it, doesn't it?
It's very much the Greco-Roman, or what do they call it? Federalist design.
A Greco-Roman pillar
maybe
structure with 4 pillars.
4 pillars, but maybe people out there know what this logo is for. Somebody might.
No logo.
I bet somebody does.
I bet somebody knows what it is because it's something. I'm wearing this as my geek thug look.
Nice. I like it.
Oh, I'll need control. When
We'll leave that as an exercise for the viewer.
That's right. They can figure it out.
And the answer is not at the end of the podcast.
Do. No. I'm going to put that in your head for the rest of the day.
Please frame your answer in the form of a question. Where's my money, Alex?
Where's my money?
All right, 2-minute warning.
Who are they going to replace Alex Trebek with when he steps down?
He'll never step down.
No, he's not.
He's going to be a zombie.
Yeah.
Zombie Trebek.
Take that show to his grave.
He is Robo Trebek. He'll get replaced by Watson.
Right.
Well, don't you want someone with personality?
Oh, Watson will have personality.
You don't think Watson has personality? Come on.
No.
Watson will learn as he goes along to have more personality than any human.
Yeah, I mean, more personality than Alex Trebek.
I mean, the thing about Alex Trebek is, and I love Jeopardy. I don't watch it every day, but I mean, I've been a fan for a long time. But Alex he acts like this is all just in his head.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, that is incorrect. He throws a lot of shade sometimes where I'm like, Alex, you didn't know that either.
No, well, there's a condescending kind of politeness about it. It's like
a little disappointed. Oh, no.
No, sorry.
Answer was
wrong.
bechamel.
How much did you wager? Ooh.
Should have known it was bechamel.
It's like, thanks, Alex, I guess.
I just can't. This goes for.
So anyone ever
Pat
challenged
Sajak,
him? Like,
I just can't imagine hosting a game show for your
years,
whole life,
forever.
I know it sounds dreamy, doesn't it?
Pat Sajak. Oh no, Pat Sajak wasn't the first.
I can't imagine how awesome that would be.
Wheel of Fortune. I've always been surprised at how low the money is on Jeopardy, because there's plenty of other game shows that seem to give you more.
Well, we'll have to remember to pick this up after the show.
Legacy.
Yes, we will.
Okay. Are we ready?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could eat. All right. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is powered by its listeners, not outside organizations. If you get value from the show, consider giving a little back. As little as $1 a month keeps great tech news and analysis coming your way commercial-free. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, November 20th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt at DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles.
And from Studio Feline at the beach, I'm Sarah Lane.
And joining us all the way up from the land of the pine trees in Oregon, Ms. Kiki Kirsten Sanford. Dr. Kiki, how is it going?
It is fantastic. It's been raining up here. The sun's coming out. Yay! And I'm on the show.
Ah, see, that's the sign that it's right that you're on the show today.
You fill my life with sunshine and
we do our best.
technology. Yeah.
We do our best. Veronica Belmont out today, but she'll be back. Don't you worry. Producer Roger Chang here as well. How are you, Roger? Are you filled with sunshine?
Yeah, it's pretty warm and there's sunlight.
I like how you had to look around. Like, meh.
Well, it wasn't this morning, and I guess it came out behind the clouds.
I think that's what those photons are. I don't know. All right, let's start with a few tech things you should know. Xiaomi CEO Lei Jun said his company will invest as much as $1 billion in 100 startups in India over the next 5 years. The investments will go to startups in content, financial technology, hyper-local services, things like, mobile repair and stuff, manufacturing, and it's all meant to encourage the use of the mobile internet.
OnePlus began rolling out its Oxygen OS 5.0. That's its first official Android Oreo release for the OnePlus 3 and the 3T. The rollout is starting small and will continue over a few days.
DJI announced a bug bounty program back in August, and security researcher Kevin Finisterre thought he'd take advantage of it. So he was working within that program to disclose how he had found some private data, images from DJI customers and such, on an unprotected Amazon web server instance. Now, at first, DJI said he qualified for the highest bounty, which would have been $30,000. But when he had issues with the terms of the award, which he felt were meant to silence him, DJI changed its tune and threatened him with charges under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act if he didn't sign it. He has since declined to sign it and responsibly disclosed the vulnerability publicly on his own. Now, here are some more top stories.
Thursday, the San Antonio Express reported that Texas Rangers, as in law enforcement, not the baseball team, served a search warrant to Apple seeking photos and messages and documents and any other data stored by the shooter in Sutherland Springs. The warrant applies to 2 phones and also an iCloud account. The 2 phones are reportedly an iPhone SE and an LG 328BG.
So the background on this is that Apple immediately offered help to law enforcement. Again, Apple has not changed their stance about breaking encryption, but they said if we can do anything to help you get into phones and find evidence that is within our normal practices, we're happy to do it. Getting a warrant is part of what Apple requires. So this is not an aggressive act. This is what Apple would like. Like, yes, go to a judge, get a warrant, bring us the warrant, we'll help you out. And the fact that it's the iPhone SE, the iCloud account, and the LG sort of implies to me that the law enforcement are like, we're just going to get a warrant for everything. You tell us what you can get off of here. Because I can't imagine that Apple has too much that they can do to help get data off an LG phone.
Probably not too much for the LG phone, but for the iCloud and the iPhone, as long as they've got that warrant, there's a lot of stuff they could probably make available.
If it's not password protected and properly encrypted, there's going to be some stuff that they can't either. But I think a lot of people see this story today. It's from last Thursday, and they're jumping to the conclusion that the FBI fight is on, and maybe it will happen, but it's not the FBI. It's the Texas Rangers. That's state police. And it's not pushing Apple. It's doing what Apple wants, which is give us a warrant and we'll see what we can do. Once they said what they can do, then we'll see what the next response is after that.
Yeah. And in the past, wasn't the situation that when Apple was asked by the FBI to break into phones, Apple said no. And then the FBI came back and said, oh, never mind. We figured out how to unencrypt things and do it ourselves. So never mind. So
supposedly spent $1 million on it too.
Yeah. But there's always the possibility that once in, the law enforcement can use their own methods to get past the encryption if that's there.
Volvo has agreed to sell up to 24,000 Volvo XC90 SUVs to Uber for use in a fleet of autonomous cars. The deal would run from 2019 to 2021. The cars would be made to run Uber's autonomous car system, which is being tested in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Tempe, Arizona. Stocking up on cars.
It's a lot of cars.
Volvos are nice, too.
Yeah, they're not cheap either.
No, that's true. But I wonder, it's these are the sort of partnerships where I'm like, hey, if a self-driving car works well and I'm in the back of a Volvo SUV, it's, it could be worse.
Have you been in the back?
If Volvo is thinking, well, we've let's get some numbers up. Getting a fleet to Uber, right? Because Uber's looking for companies to partner with this sort of thing, rather than consumers.
Have you had the opportunity to ride in one of these autonomous vehicles yet?
I never have. Have you guys?
I haven't.
No.
I don't have
totally
like
do
the
it, though.
weirded outness that some people do about it. I'm like, I'll get in the back of that, no problem. Drive me around.
Yeah.
But I recognize that there's some safety concerns still before this becomes part of real life.
Yeah, I think this is good for Volvo because all the car manufacturers want to be the suppliers of the fleets of autonomous cars. That they realize that that's probably how they're going to sell cars in the future, and it shows that Uber is serious about replacing their drivers. They're willing to spend now. They aren't ordering 24,000. They have a deal to purchase up to 24,000. Then they'd have to get a new deal if they need more than that. But that's quite a large number.
And that's a lot of jobs potentially.
It's a lot of driver jobs too. Yeah.
Yeah. Are those existing driver jobs? Are those proposed or expected driver jobs being replaced? I mean, these are important questions to ask for the future. For the future, definitely.
Well, speaking of cars, kind of. After announcing an electric car, semi-truck actually, and then a new sports car last week, Tesla has launched a third product, but this one isn't a car. It's Powerbank, a mobile battery pack to charge phones and other devices. It has built-in USB, has micro USB, and also a lightning cable, and uses a single 18650 cell battery, which is actually kind of interestingly the same as the batteries in Tesla vehicles that were made before the Model 3. Although obviously in a car, there'd be like 1,000 of them. And this is just the one to power a mobile phone. And it has a 3350 milliamp hour capacity, which isn't that much. If your phone's completely dead, for most people, it's only going to charge a single charge, up to the top for a phone. So it's not super novel. The price is also $45. So again, not crazy expensive, but you can get off-brand comparable battery chargers for like $10 here. So this seems to me to be like Tesla saying, coming up on the holiday season, let's get rid of some batteries of people who want, sort of a Tesla battery charger that, I don't know, seems cooler than some brand that no one's ever heard of.
It's kind of ingenious because from what I can tell, this sounds like Tesla took all the cells for the old Model 3, the pre-Model 3, and said, well, what are we going to do with these? We're not making the cars that these work for anymore. We have better batteries for the cars now. And they're like, well, let's just package them up as cell phone chargers. Probably more than one at a time was too big, which is why they're so small. 3350 milliamp hours. I mean, that most phones have that in them now, especially the high-end phones. So this is not large. And for $99, you can usually get 10,000 milliamp hours plus out of a battery pack. So this is definitely for somebody who's just like, I want to own a piece of Tesla.
Right? Like, I'm not going to get the car, but I've got my battery pack.
I got a battery charger. This is an overpriced stocking stuffer for the holidays.
It is. Exactly.
With a nice brand name.
We have these little stick chargers that you get as giveaways sometimes and stuff. That's kind of the power of this, sadly. Well, from that to little detective work. Developers Jonathan Levin and Steve Troughton-Smith found information in Apple's Bridge OS 2.0 software package indicating the new iMac Pro will have an A10 Fusion coprocessor to handle secure boot and possibly, or at least it's capable of, always-on Siri support. In fact, by always-on, Steve Troughton-Smith thinks this could probably work when the computer is off, so that you could say, hey, Siri, turn on the computer, and it would turn itself on. It appears the chip can run even when the iMac Pro is shut off. The A10 Fusion is the same chip that's in the iPhone 7. And they also said, and I can't remember now if it was Levin or Troughton-Smith who said this, that essentially, because the A10 is controlling boot, you could consider the Intel chip to be the coprocessor because the A10 is controlling everything else. And they called it a somewhat elegant solution to Apple having control over the system without annoying developers by putting the control in the Intel chipset.
At first I was like, oh my gosh, waking up a computer from, the computer's off, but you can wake it up by just talking to it. Like, isn't that weird? But that's where we're going with all this stuff, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you couldn't wake up a speaker either. So in a way, if it was, I guess it depends on how seamless it ends up working, but I can see this being really helpful.
Well, and especially with everything in the house becoming linked, and we've got our Amazon boxes, we've got our Google boxes, we've got all the things that we talk to in our house. And if there's an easy way to automate things, so you don't have to push a button, you don't have to walk across the room to turn on your computer. You can turn on your computer from bed.
I have been surprised how well Face ID works. I know it hasn't worked perfectly for everybody out there, but generally the reviews are positive about it. And it really does feel like I'm not locked. I pick up the phone, I swipe it, and it does it without me thinking about it. Imagine if that gets into your computer. Imagine if we move on from Face ID to, I don't know, biosignature ID, and the computer just can tell by your pulse and respiration and gait who you are when you walk into a room, and log you in and turn itself on for you, or ask you, like, do you want to log in? Voice print analysis. That's Kiki. We're logging her in now. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting consumer-friendly things these things could do, as long as we can do it securely.
As long as we can do it securely, and for a lot of people, also privacy is an issue. So if there's still a way to maintain certain aspects of their privacy.
Well, yeah, not when I say securely, I don't just mean like it can't be spoofed, but also that bioprint information, that voice print information, that's all under lock and key that you only have the key to.
You hope.
That's what I want, is what I'm saying. Yes.
Well, speaking of next generation of broadcast signals coming our way eventually. The US FCC approved a new over-the-air standard called ATSC 3.0, which allows broadcasters to geolocate TV signals and transmit Ultra HD, and also allow for more interactive programming. Now, ATSC 3.0 can target broadcasts, including advertising or emergency alerts, and it's very geolocated by, street basis rather than, a town or a zip code, because it knows where you are. Broadcasters would be required to continue the current system alongside the new system for 5 years, which gives, people a reason to upgrade. Also, no current TVs support ATSC 3.0 at this point. So this is one of these next gen, we'll all get there eventually, but no one can take advantage of this yet. And speaking of waking from the dead, one of the things that a TV would be able to do with this new standard is, for example, give you an Amber Alert when your TV's off. So there are reasons where I say, well, this is actually a good thing, but it would have TVs working in a very different way than they do now.
And it would mean that consumers would be forced to buy new televisions if this were adopted across the board, and if the last mile, if the broadcasters, if the old standards were phased out eventually after the 5 years, there's a quote in the article. It says, this is market driven. Basically, the market, it's good for the marketers. It's not actually the consumers asking for it. But looking at this, it's like, this is so great for advertisers.
Yes.
And it's like, yay, you can get emergency alerts, and there's some other stuff that's quote unquote interactive that could be more personalized, but oh my goodness.
This is essentially the holy grail of what TV advertisers have been pining for, which is a Nielsen box on every TV sold in the country. Mm-hmm. I want to know who's watching curling. I want to know who's watching, Golden Girls, 30th year, episode rerun, or like to have that type of data with something limited to only video on demand or video over IP. And this just gives them like, oh, great, this is even more nuanced, granular information. What's funny is this might bite some of them in the backside, because now large broadcasters can tailor their pricing even more so than what they've been able to do, which is just kind of generally just a block amount.
Well, this is going to, part of me wants to say to all of this, and how many people use over the air? Not many. So you can count on it. Limited income or elderly often are using over the air. And so you have to look at the impact on those groups by this, or cord cutters, people who are like, hey, I watch all my stuff on Hulu and Netflix, but I'll do some over the air to get the channels that way. Well, if suddenly you are being prevented from, say, recording things, or you're being asked to authorize because this is over the air, people are just going to stop using over the air and also if my TV doesn't get it, I'm just going to start using the internet, or I'm going to use cable if I have that as an option. And I feel like this could have a backlash, like you're saying, Roger, in the sense of causing people to stop using over the air if it's implemented too aggressively.
Well, that's the beauty of over the air, right? Is like, I have my Leaf over the air antenna, cost me $75 5 years ago, and now I just get lots of free stuff. So if at any point that becomes more prohibitive in any way, then yeah, I just won't do it anymore. I'm doing it now because it works so well.
The other thing this does is allows broadcast to mobile phones. So you can send television signals through, say, LTE broadcasts, not just LTE broadcasts, and create bandwidth-free video viewing. So that might be the other door through which the broadcasters are able to say, well, we're losing that free over-the-air viewing, but that wasn't very valuable to us anyway. Getting it on the phone, bandwidth-free, doesn't count against your data cap. Yeah, we're in for that. Again, if that's the way it works out. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. Let's talk exoskeletons. Dr. Kiki, we found this article in Ars Technica about a company, actually several companies, but one in particular that they spend most of the time talking about is a company called Esco Bionics, that makes the Esco vest. Now, they started by creating the Human Universal Load Carrier, or later renamed Fortis, for Lockheed Martin, but they're now making an Exo vest for $6,000 each that people wear to become Iron Man.
Not even close to Iron Man. This Exo vest. Yeah, it basically helps with those repetitive motions, especially ones where the arms are lifted over the head for extended periods of time, like in automotive manufacturing processes. So these vests are lightweight. There's a nice little pillow against the back of the neck that can support your head so that you don't have to hold that 8-pound, 10-pound bowling ball at the top of your spine at an odd position for many hours. And a lot of people will go home and get neck and upper back repetitive movement strain issues from these kinds of jobs. And this kind of vest is meant to stop that, or at least minimize it. And I think the vest runs at something like $6,000 at this point. But if it helps to offset any kinds of potential future injuries, I mean, that's the kind of thing that costs a lot of money: rehabilitation, doctor's bills, et cetera, et cetera. And so this could be a great investment for manufacturers. Lightweight, and it just helps with just lifting. And it's patent secured, and they've got secrets, and they're not letting out their secrets of how it's built, but they think it's like hydraulic springs that help the arms lift.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it. They won't describe how it works, but you can see it. Yeah. And one of the videos I watched, the guy demonstrating it basically said that between the counterweight and the floor, it takes the load off you, so that instead of your muscles and your bone structures moving the weight, it's redistributing that weight, and basically making things lighter.
Making things lighter, yeah. So lift assistance of about 5 to 15 pounds per arm. So it's not a huge amount, but it's just enough, I mean, maybe this is the kind of thing, if it were made cheaper, new parents would like this, throw their newborn baby into the air, right?
It's also, I mean, if you think of something, as like repetitive stress injury, right? It's like, that's something that happens, with people just sitting at a computer, typing regularly. And once you've got something like that, it can be very costly for a company, to go through like a workman's comp type of a thing. Not to mention the rehabilitation for the worker. Something that is a job that is actually, you're lifting heavy things over and over. On one hand, I'm like, oh, but it's good exercise. But it's like, no, once you get hurt, I mean, that's major stuff. And
over.
Yeah,
you're talking 4,600 times per day, lifting something above your head.
Right.
That's a recipe for repetitive stress for sure.
And until everyone's replaced with robots.
Yep, that was the next point.
Right. It's like, this is kind of a stopgap thing where it's like, hey, if the humans are doing it, well, let's give them a break. So I don't know. It's pretty cool.
I think it is, and it looks as
Though.
it is expensive. But there, this exo vest that is being developed for Ford is just one of the things that manufacturers are looking at. There's also General Motors, and they are working with a Swedish firm, Bioservo, to they're working on a robotic glove to help holding tools. And so it's been shown that just within a few minutes of gripping a tool continuously, that you can actually have fatigue in the hands. The hands weren't meant for holding on to things for really long periods, like gripping a screwdriver that's maybe, or a torque wrench even, that's working at high amounts of torque and pressure. So being able to have tools that can help these really sensitive motor neurons and muscles in the hands work, that could be really cool. And then there's the chairless chair from Audi, which is like an exoskeleton that helps you squat. So it just takes the load off. I don't think this is the kind of thing you're going to go take to your personal training session for the squats. This is something that
no, it's when you're squatting down to work on something, though, it makes you feel like you're sitting in a chair, which is really interesting.
I do love the idea of wearing one of these, at Gold's Gym next to the guys who are actually bodybuilders and being like, see, it's also good bench press.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things now, the Bioservo you mentioned, I think it does have power, requires electricity, but the Exovest and the chairless chair from Nuni, they don't. They're just using mechanics and gravity to figure this out, and I think that's fascinating.
Yeah,
because our movie thought about this is always like the big hydraulic powered from Alien sort of thing.
Yeah, but I think that there's that big hydraulic exoskeleton mecha suit that we think of that's going to help you, the warriors of the future. But there's also the place for the really diminutive exoskeleton as well. And there's the Fortis exoskeleton from Lockheed Martin that is kind of like that sleek, svelte hydraulic suit, and it can connect to heavy tools and redirects weight from the arms so that they don't get fatigued really easily. And it's from a Lockheed Martin press release, they say that it can decrease stress while carrying a heavy load, and that load was a 40-pound backpack. And they exerted less energy wearing this KSRD model of this exoskeleton. So they actually lasted longer on the treadmill before needing a water break. And this is the kind of thing that could be used in urban settings. For the military, this could also be used in industrial settings. And then, the really exciting stuff that I think is what's going to be really interesting are the neuromechanics of these exoskeletons to help people who have spinal injuries or diseases like cerebral palsy. And that's the next direction that it's going to be going, helping kids really move and walk and do things that they're unable to do and give them a richer quality of life.
And not even kids or people who've
Adults,
suffered physical injuries. I mean, the elderly is one group that I could see totally outfitted with this. I mean, think about not having to need a powered like little scooter or a wheelchair, and they can physically, walk to where they need to go.
Well, keep an eye on these sorts of technologies by keeping in tune to This Week in Science at twist.org. You guys talk about a lot of this kind of stuff there. We'll have links to this in the show notes as well. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit, submits stories and votes on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Let's check in with Chris Christensen, who has a new way to find some cheap hotel rooms. Chris?
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. I had to change a blog post that I have on the Amateur Traveler website on 25 different websites for booking hotels because I found a new website that I thought does something very interesting, and that is roomkey.com. Roomkey can help you find hotel rooms just like a lot of other programs, Expedia, Booking.com, Hotels.com. One of the things that's different about Roomkey is it's going to find you some lower rates than you can find on a lot of other sites. But these are rates that you have to be in the hotel's loyalty program to take advantage of. And so if it finds a deal at a Marriott, for instance, you're going to have to be in the Marriott loyalty program. Now, I don't know of a loyalty program that isn't free to join, so that's not a particular problem. But if you are in the loyalty programs or willing to join one, which you should be willing to, roomkey.com might find you some good deals. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Thank you, Chris. Let's check what's in the mailbag, Sarah.
All right, Tom, this one comes from Greg with three G's actually, regarding the conversation about encryption and the government's need to encrypt data. Just a thought. Verizon can push an app to my phone without my consent and prevent me from removing it. An example, a system level app like Sim Toolkit. For years, there was an NFL app that I was prevented from removing. So why couldn't they push a piece of monitoring software to the phone also without my knowledge or consent? I would think this would be possible with a court order. Certainly. Is creating a backdoor about listening to chatter amongst known malicious actors, or is it about listening to all conversations?
Yeah, and I think that's what Greg's saying is, look, if you just need to get the bad guys, you could get a warrant, and would it be okay then to go to the ISP of the bad guy? Now, this is different than the Sutherland Springs case. This is when you're surveilling someone. They don't know that they're being surveilled. This is not an after the fact situation. But could you say like, hey, push an app and give us their data stream? And in fact, that's what a lot of this NSA surveillance that Edward Snowden's revelations unveiled was the bulk collection of that, because a lot of times it was difficult to identify one account. But if you did bulk collection, you might start to build the pieces of somebody they were surveilling. That's why they wanted the bulk collection, because it's not as easy sometimes as being able to say, hey, Verizon, there's this one person with that account. Can you push something to their phone? But I have to say, this is the kind of thinking that I think is going to have to happen. And the debates around privacy should happen around this rather than trying to break math. Just, trying to put a backdoor encryption. And I want to get back into that discussion at some point, because the last few shows, we've kind of assumed that most of you have followed this over the years with us. And so we have some new listeners who are like, well, wait a minute, you're saying this, and I don't know why that's true. We want to talk about the fact that putting a backdoor in encryption just really doesn't work. Like it's going to not, it's math. You can't make math illegal. You can't stop people from using math. Anyway, that's the short version of it. I do want to dig into that a little more, but instead of putting a backdoor in encryption, let's talk about other ways that you can find out what criminals are doing so that you can catch them.
Or let's find new ways to just be able to get around the backdoors that all of the ISPs put into our devices.
Yeah, no, it's always going to be an arms race, right?
Yeah, it's great. I love the predator-prey interactions of the consumer marketplace. It's fantastic.
It goes right into your neuroscientist brain,
right.
doesn't it? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kiki, for joining us. As I mentioned, twist.org, TWIS.org. Join Dr. Kiki and Blair and Justin and many fine guests as they talk about science every week. What you got going on lately to tell people about?
Well, last week we interviewed Kelly Wienersmith, the co-author of a book called Soonish, on the top 10, and they're in her and her husband Zach's view of the technologies that are either going to make or break the future. And so that was a really fun interview. And then this week, I think I'm going to have to talk about cosmic interlopers.
Cosmic interlopers? Where are they coming from?
Other stars. Oh my goodness.
Stay out of our solar system.
That's right.
I really liked that interview with Kelly Wienersmith. And in fact, I got in touch with her, and particularly the part where you guys talked about the difficulty in explaining things when you've spent the time digging into them versus, somebody who's just kind of reading a science article. So I'm going to have her on DTNS Labs and just talk to her about that and sort of her process for researching all that stuff for the book.
Very cool. Well, I will have to listen to that and learn some things.
So folks, you got to listen to the inspiration for that. Go to twist.org. TWIS.org. Thank you to everybody who supports this show. We do not exist on advertising. We exist entirely on your support, whether it be by PayPal. That's the kind of thing that pays for our equipment, or our trip to CES. We're going to be covering CES. And a lot of that comes from the funds we build up from people donating to us one time or even repeatedly on PayPal. Merchandise sales at DTNS store, dailytechnewsshow.com/store, or our biggest funding comes from patrons who support us on a regular basis. We're always trying to get at least one patron more than last month. Be that patron if you aren't already at patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Let us know what you think. You had a question, comment, something to add about a show. We certainly read everything, and we'll try to add that stuff into future episodes as well. We are live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website, you already know this, but I'll tell you anyway, dailytechnewsshow.com.
Probably already know Patrick Bezos on the show tomorrow, but I'll tell you that anyway too, because he is. We'll talk to you then.
Thank you.
Bye.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show, you guys.
Good show. Very good show. Kiki, I'm so glad you were with us for the exoskeleton stuff. You're so well versed in
second skeletons.
in exoskeletons.
I always thought, you and your second skeleton stuff.
Someday it's going to pay off. And this was that day.
I'm so glad I've been reading all about them. I'm going to have to go and put my exoskeleton on and go back out into the world. Right now,
logs over your head.
I'm showing my soft, not exoskeleton exterior.
Your endoskeleton.
Endoskeleton, yeah.
Titles at showbot.tv. Top of the list, warrant everything, followed by investment in workers' health.
Because it's a vest.
Pretty good one. Roger check for sunshine. A warrant of things. I got a Tesla phone charger, Tesla battery pack, card sold separately. Overpriced stocking stuffer. Exoskeleton gives elderly hope for becoming supervillains.
Oh.
Yeah,
let's talk exoskeletons.
That's a lot of cars. Turn on the computer from bed. With Macs, you can actually put your computer on a timer. It'll turn itself on. One of the most popular tips we ever gave at Techzilla. Turn on your computer. Oh, wait. The Tesla To Go can charge your phone once. Who watches curling? A lot of people watch curling. Don't you diminish it. Who uses rabbit ears? You can't stop math. Well, it depends on what class you're taking. Need it? Get a warrant. Apple warrant interest by Texas Rangers. Warrant interest by Texas Rangers. All that's missing is a photo of, what's his name? Chuck Norris. Tesla, batteries included. It's kind of ingenious. I want to own a piece of Tesla. I said heresy, not hey Siri. Don't get aliens nated. Exovests say game over to repetitive stress ailments. The chairless. I'm
going to start using heresy instead of the other thing, so I don't set people's stuff off.
Heresy.
So you just say to your phone, heresy, where's the nearest restaurant?
I just realized something as people start voting. So vote, people. Warrant everything still at the top. Investment following also at the top, and the work yourself. You can actually turn, if you had a power exosuit skeleton, couldn't you also force someone to do things they didn't want to do? Like, I'm going to have you stab this man and make you his prime murderer.
Yeah, if it's like the kind of exoskeleton like Iron Man, where it runs on an operating system and there's software that's hackable, and there's some kind of entry point to hack it, maybe. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I mean, if it's that exo vest, no, because it's not powered.
You mean the Bowflex vest? Is which is
Bowflex? Yeah,
it's essentially what it is. It's just like a bunch of torsion rods that you have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, yeah. No, you'd have to have the suit that it would have to be one of the suits that has some kind of operating system behind it, that you're not actually the one necessarily doing the movements, and that there's some kind of program that could be rewritten.
Kind of like the zombie ants.
Yeah, zombie ants, exactly. Oh my god.
Where they don't.
I honestly
controls their legs.
No, it just seems like the worst way to go. It's like it's going to control all your muscles and make you. I'm grabbing onto this computer and I'm never going to let it go, and I'm going to die here.
Wait, what?
It's terrible.
So zombie ants are ants that have been infected by a fungus.
Yes.
And we used to think it worked by sort of taking over their brains and changing who they were. But it turns out it doesn't get into the brain. So the ant is perfectly aware that it's still an ant, but it can't control itself anymore.
And it takes
so it controls its nervous system.
It controls the nervous system, and it makes the ants grab onto whatever surface, like the tree that it's on, with its mandibles, and then clamps the mandibles shut so that the ant can't move. And there it allows it to, wreak its growth,
digest the rest of the
digest the ant, and make the ant also. So the ant gets digested, and then it becomes a spore dispersal point, a spreader, and then birds will come down and maybe eat it, and it's all the.
And so the birds get infected and they become zombie birds.
Well, the birds get infected and then it poops out, or it gets passed along that way. Yeah, other things get eaten, and the poop, and then the ants eat the poop on the leaf, and then the fungus, and then clamp.
Clamp.
One of the more ingenious uses I've seen of ant mandibles is as a emergency suture. Like the ones in Africa, they have the big mandibles, and some of the local tribes use it when they get a big wound. They use it and they just have it clamped down and their skin, hold their skin together like staples, and then they just take the body off. So it's just like the ant head and the mandible closing. It's pretty awesome.
I think I've seen a documentary where they show that. It's
another mandible.
It's kind of interesting because isn't that what Crazy Glue was originally designed, was to glue your skin together for wounds and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what Crazy Glue was originally designed for?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those military technologies that made it to popular use.
It's like Hot Pockets. People don't realize it came
like Tang. Tang was not originally developed as the delicious beverage that we all enjoy every day. It was meant for the space program.
That I knew.
They wanted a continental breakfast when they were orbiting the Earth, and they got everything else except the orange juice.
It's like dehydrated Neapolitan ice cream. A lot of people don't realize that was developed for the space program.
And they realize it actually tasted better than the real ice cream.
Ice cream that doesn't melt. This is amazing.
Hey, did you guys know that zero gravity wasn't right here?
A lot of people don't realize that space capsules.
Bet you didn't know that. Oh, goodness.
Ken from Chicago in the chat room says that the fungus-controlled zombies is the basis of the Last of Us video game.
Oh, yeah.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. But why can't the fungus just take over and just build a new society? You know what I mean? Like some sort of.
Well, the ant fungus is all it cares about is clamping. It won't talk about anything else.
Sounds like a contractor right now.
The fungus doesn't have a purpose other than to survive and spread.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, that's true of all of us, though. Really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us spread biologically with offspring. Other ones just spread their stores to various outlet malls around the country.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I'm looking at you, Nordstrom Rack.
Oh, goodness. I haven't been in a Nordstrom Rack in a while.
I got tired of the irregular sizes.
What does that mean?
Basically, everything was too skinny to fit me.
Oh.
I hesitate to speculate.
I had that problem when I visited Tokyo.
Yeah.
It's weird in Japan. I could find clothes that fit me, but they're designed.
You're barely bigger than I am, and I'm too small for everything.
there.
No, it is ridiculous. I went there and I was like, I need a jacket. And I'm like putting on jackets and I'm like, I ended up getting like a large jacket because that was the only
And it comes
thing
down
that
to
fit
your
my-
knees, right?
I know. I'm like, what?
I looked at a jacket. It was a really nice blazer, but like very few Japanese, I guess, have very broad like
Yeah.
chest shoulders.
Exactly.
So anything that would fit like that came down to my knees, and it looked like a trench coat. It's like it's a blazer trench coat. This is honest.
But think about, you could have just rocked this whole new style.
Belt it and cinch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, call it a regular.
That's our Raj.
Is it a bathrobe or a blazer? Who knows? Who cares?
It's a blazer robe. Or
Blaze
you could,
robe.
Or you'd be at your blazer trench.
I mean, someone took the bathrobe and turned it around and called it a blanket or a slanket.
The
And they
slanket.
sold it on TV, made lots of money.
Indeed, they did.
Oh dear. As seen on TV, sections of grocery stores, the most popular things before Christmas.
What? Did you just turn into a BuzzFeed article, or what just happened?
I did.
I've been eyeing those egg things, the ones that let you make like the perfect omelet or whatever. I don't know. I mean,
Oh, the pan that's shaped like an omelet, so you can't get it
or
wrong.
like it's microwavable. It's like
It's
a form
microwave-
you pour it in there, and
Yeah, I'm gonna let you know. I did a lot of stuff with eggs and microwaves over the years, and these devices, they work okay. I mean,
So wait a
no,
minute.
they're all right. But
Knowing
I mean,
what I know, that you studied birds.
are you saying that they?
I'm not gonna say anything further to incriminate myself.
I see. A lot of allegations from the pigeon population of UC Davis coming out.
I think the top vote right now is investment in workers' health for the title.
Investment.
And investment in workers' health?
I was going with let's talk exoskeletons because we were having so much fun talking. I didn't want to interrupt.
Sure.
I mean, that, we're same topic. I don't know. Exoskeleton is just a cool word to have in a title.
It's good SEO.
Hey, Roger. Ken from Chicago
Better.
says microwavable eggs are the only way to make omelets.
What? Come
The
on.
only way.
Microwavable eggs?
Well, part of it is you put it in these containers. You mix up your eggs first. You have to whip them up first, and then you pour it in the container.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, the whole thing, it's contained, and so all of the water that's in the eggs, it stays in it, and so it's lighter and fluffier because the water vapor stays within the container, as opposed to on a stovetop where it all evaporates away. So
That's where all the extra cooking
but the
oil comes in.
flipping, the flipping on the stovetop is the fun part.
I know, right?
See, because I always made coffee mug eggs when I was a kid, where you'd break a couple eggs into a coffee mug, put a little milk, salt, pepper, maybe some other cheese or whatever, stir it all up. And then the fun part of that was watching the egg grow up out of the mug as it cooked.
Yeah, but it shrinks back down. Shrinks back. Not all the way, but that happens.
It's a
And that
short
ruins
lived-
it.
It's a micro souffle.
It is.
Yeah.
No, I mean, hey, I got no problem with microwaves. But I also eat a lot of eggs, and I don't know, like that's on my little cast iron, and you know,
No.
it's just
Well, you like the
that's like
craft
part of
of
the
it.
fun.
Yeah.
And cast iron, you're getting some good iron in your diet. It's a great nutrient.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
There you go.
All I know is that I'm not supposed to wash cast iron with soap ever.
No. Once you season it, you just scrub it off.
You just
whatever's on it.
which is,
You
I
scrub it
mean,
off.
even better.
Yep.
So
You
I
kind
have
of
to
do
whip
what you
the
do
tops
with
up.
a self-cleaving oven. You just heat it really
Permission
hot.
to be lazy accepted.
That's
Yep.
right.
And I can get more iron in my diet. Will do.
Which honestly,
Will
it's
do.
not really lazy because you have to use your elbows to scrub it off without soap. But
Yeah.
still.
No, there's still some.
I do need
You know.
somebody to clean my
If only we had some
microwave.
exoskeletons. It's all easier.
So wait, let me ask you
Exoskeleton, clean my microwave.
since we're talking about food cooking and getting minerals from your cookware, are like non-stick pans still a no-no, or is that like remember
I
for
stopped
like
using them because I read so many, sort
Yeah,
of
but that was like 15
hysterical
years ago.
reasons that I, shouldn't. But I don't really know. Kiki probably knows a lot more about that than I do.
Yeah, like the really well seasoned cast iron pans are as good as a nonstick pan, but it takes work to keep it that way. Nonstick pans are fine, but you have to make sure that you never use them at high heat and that you never use them at high heat.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things where it's like high heat is kind of part of the deal.
Exactly. Yeah. So you shouldn't be using your nonstick pan to sear things, because the high heat actually breaks down the nonstick coating and the bonds, and and that's when
your body
and things are released into the air, and you breathe it in, and it's also released into your food.
Well, that's also, I mean, I don't know. There's so many instances where I'm like, like I pretty much like cook with olive oil, you know, but it's like I know that olive oil shouldn't be at a high heat.
Actually, it's okay. There were some studies done that show that olive oil is one of the best oils.
Algae oil is
around olive oil
the
was
board.
one of the best oils, as long as you didn't cook it too high of a heat, because then it got toxic.
Carcinogenic.
No, it doesn't get toxic. I think you're both right. I think olive oil will break down at high heat and have a few more toxins than it does normally, but it's still better than most other oils. It's just not as good as olive oil is at room temperature, whereas algae oil apparently has almost nothing, but it's really expensive.
Algae oil. What does it taste like?
I've heard of algae oil, and I've bought all of them.
Oh, that's even better. I like
algae oil. Has no taste, doesn't break down at high temperatures. It's just expensive. That's all.
And some people are allergic to it.
Allergic to algae oil, really?
Oh, I think, well, it's the whole algae has some components that people who are allergic to shellfish might be allergic to. It's the whole soylent issue.
The red tide.
It's not the red tide.
Do they collect the red tide? Can you harvest kelp from a red zone that's been hit by the red tide? No, probably not. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. If you don't want to harvest things during a red tide.
What is it that olive oil has when it gets at high heat, Kiki? It's like esters or something.
Esters.
Yeah, it's the smoke point. There's I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. But as far as I know, olive oil is one of the best for high heat and everything. It's still the best. It has a lowish smoke point, but it still doesn't have the oxidative damage that is the problem with.
So wait, once we come out with the perfect cooking solution where we could use microgravity and cook things not immediately connected to another surface, this should all be fine, right? Because then you would need oil, you would need all the other things.
Right. Just use microwaves to shoot it at the thing floating in microgravity, convection.
Like convection oven with enough air that pushes the food up like a steak.
Do not. Okay,
so you'd have a blower so that the steak or the food is just in the middle of the oven floating around in microgravity, and
they're just getting cooked all over, being roasted in its own juices.
Prevention Magazine says, don't deep fry in olive oil. Try to avoid the smoke point. It's not harmful to your health, but cooking past the smoke point can cause nutrient loss and create unpleasant off flavors.
Flavor.
That's just bad cooking in my
So it's not as nutritional if it hits the smoke point, and it might taste bad.
Yeah.
But you burn something.
Go for it. I need to go pick up my son.
All right. Yes. Thanks, Kiki.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Kiki. Yeah. It was so good to see you.
Really good to see you.
Thanks, everybody, for saying hi. We'll see you later.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me on, you guys.
Yes. Come back soon.
Please do.
I hope to. Yeah. Have a great, happy Thanksgiving week.
You too.